It is my honor to introduce
Principles of Passion. Principles of Passion. Chris Thomas.
Great moments are born from great opportunity.
I followed my passion.
I have a dream.
And Dominic Semina.
Better come to work. Perfection.
With special guest YEMI AKISANYA, board member at IC Stars, and most importantly, a father.
Keep going. If you can find that thing that really gives you joy, that'll be it.
That company you keep is crucial, is critical, because that group or those groups are the ones that are going to influence your behavior the most.
Are you ready?
It's Principles of Passion.
Come on, sucker. Let's get it on.
Welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Yemi. Appreciate you, man.
Pleasure to be here,
Appreciate
man.
you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank
Dom, as always, the man.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, man. We're here on Principles of Passion. This is season 2, episode 2. And today we're talking about transformation. Be, then do, right? Be, then do. And the reason this is so important and why the timing is so crucial right now is because what we're doing with Your Passion First and going into the community and hosting some of these workshops, we want to do transformational learning. Mm-hmm. We want to tailor that to some industries that they, and I say they, I mean some of the opportunity youth that we're really focused on, the 16 to 24 that are coming from under-resourced communities. How do we tap in to where they are right now? And so I'm honored again to have Yemi on just to talk about that and kind of what you do in the community and some of your work more recently at IC Stars.
Yeah.
And then the NBA.
And that's where we met.
We did.
IC Stars.
So
Yep.
I'll kind of let you go into maybe how we met, what you're doing right now, and
Okay.
start from there.
Very good. So yes, Yemi AKISANYA is my name. Happy to be here again. Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it. Don, hello. And it's a long story. I'm gonna try to keep it short. So originally born in Chicago by Nigerian parents. My parents were here back in the 70s to get their to further their education. My father was a civil engineer at UIC. My mom was a nurse and had myself and 3 siblings. We moved back to Nigeria when I was like 2 months old.
Wow.
So I was really young. Spent the next 14 years in Nigeria. So my entire early childhood education in Nigeria. Now remember, Nigeria is in West Africa. It is a third world country, to be honest with you. Very, very humble beginnings. So I can totally relate when you talk about under-resourced and underrepresented. I mean, that's something that's very real to me because I live that life. And I still feel like there's this child in me that lives that life, even though I'm probably at a much better place than a lot of others from that community. So fast forward, I came back to the States when I was 14 years old. I did high school here in Chicago, in South Holland, Thornwood High School.
Did you come back speaking good English?
Not at all.
Okay.
I came back talking like this. I had a very, very deep African accent.
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, they used to tease me all the time.
Yeah.
They used to say this word, say that word.
Yeah.
When I say those words, they'll laugh at me, right?
Yeah.
And over time, I had to adapt and somehow be able to keep true to my identity. So when I talk to my family, I talk like this.
Yeah.
When I talk to people like you, I try to speak in a way where it's a little bit more, I guess, enunciate my words differently and things like that. So I did have to transition. Okay. So I did high school here. I did my undergraduate degree at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. I got a bachelor's degree in information technology. Did some odd jobs here and there, and then ended up getting into IT. Did that for a while. Got into the financial services industry. Did that for a while. But my passion had always been about how do I give back, or rather, pay it forward to my community. And Chris, you talked about that, right? You think about folks between the ages of 16 and 24 years old, and you think about their passion, their purpose. There's not a lot of resources to help these individuals. Not in Lagos, Nigeria, not in the south side of Chicago, not in the west side of Chicago, or anywhere you're at. So it became a passion of mine to pursue that, and that's how I run into IC Stars. And IC Stars is a non-for-profit that focuses on really finding young talent in underrepresented and underserved communities around the nation, Chicagoland area, Milwaukee, Ohio, And we train them, so we unlearn them and train them in IT technology, as well as leadership, and then we place them. We put them to work, right? So one of the big statistics we look at in IC Stars is we look at what your pay level is coming into the program, and we look at your pay level a year after the program. And we're proud to say right now it's on the average of anywhere between $10 to $12 an hour coming into the program, and roughly about $24 to $26 an hour coming out the program. So imagine that being $50 an hour, $100. I mean, that's where we want to get to. So, so that's IC Stars, and as I did the work in IC Stars, I went into this guy, Chris. Very passionate, big voice, very dedicated, and the man means what he says. And
for sure.
and that's why I kind of struck with him. He said, "Yemi, come on this show and speak." I'm like, listen, if you think I qualify, man, I would say what I can to hopefully not embarrass you. So once again, thanks for having me here, and I'm looking forward to a good conversation.
No, humbled just to have you on.
Yep.
So, again, in talking about transformation, it's challenging for some people to transform their lives, their livelihood, their situation.
Yeah.
And so what we want to talk about today is maybe just dig into some questions that could help some people out there. Because I know anytime you are trying to get into something new, there is this type of transformation. And so just in looking at some definitions, a couple that came up, to change in composition or structure, okay, to change the outward form or appearance of, and to change in character or condition. For me, it's all three of those. Okay? I think you need to kind of lump them together. What I want the audience to do real quick in terms of transforming, and even us here in the studio, I want us to try something. Let's close our eyes and try and dream of everything that we want right now, whether it be, and imagine yourself having it, whether it be the car that you want, the house that you want, the friends that you want, or significant others that you want. And just try and imagine yourself kind of having that right now, and start to be that before you do it. And feel what feeling kind of comes over you as you're thinking of those things, of not wanting to get them, but actually having them, the feeling of excitement that you get as you start to unravel what they feel and taste and look and hear like. And go ahead and open your eyes. Imagine doing that with everything that you do in life, right? Just believing and being it and then doing it. And the feeling I know that I just got just from trying to feel like I was actually there was almost like I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
And so when we think of trying to transform, it's got to start right here. So there's a couple of things I want us to go over. I researched this article by Stefan James. He's a life coach, and he goes through these pillars. And that first one is actually changing your belief or your mindset. The second one, make a decision and commit. Take action, achieve results, be consistent, change your identity, and commit to mastery. And so what I want to do is go over these today, and we'll dig into some questions. Yemi, let me start with you.
Sure.
And going through all those, is there any one in particular that kind of sticks out in your mind that you would want to prioritize? And I'll go through them one more time just to give you a minute to think on it. Change your belief or mindset. Make a decision and commit. Take action. Achieve results. Be consistent. Change your identity. And commit to mastery.
Chris, I tell you, before I even answer that question, I wanted to kind of talk about my experience with that exercise you just did. With close your eyes and think about, that ideal place we want to be at. And as I felt the goosebumps and I felt that excitement, Don, I also felt anxiety. I'm not sure if anyone else felt that. I kind of felt the anxiety of,
That's a good point you bring up. I'd love to get to that once you finish your point.
yeah. I wasn't sure if the anxiety came from why you're not there or what's holding you back. I'm not sure if anxiety was the unknown of that's a dream that cannot be achieved, my friend, or the anxiety of, what's holding you back. It's you, right? I'm not sure what it is. I have to kind of reflect on it, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to share that. And I'm not sure if any of our audience felt an anxiety or Don, maybe you
So
can-
like for
yeah.
me, the anxiety, I've actually dealt with that quite a lot when I think about stuff like that because I always think about what I want and what I want to achieve in life. So when I get that, it's for me the anxiety is it's this fear of the unknown, like you were saying, this fear you don't know what it is. You gotta kind of think about it, ponder on it. But to me, it's like I actually started writing again, so hopefully the book will be out next year. So it was getting into meditation, and then from there it got into the fear and what fear really is. And fear to me is just like it's an illusion, it's a restriction on you based on this illusion of the unknown and the fear of the unknown. But it's just because we're so used to what we do that it's easy to revert back into what we know. And that's what I also wanted to touch on that point. Make a decision and stick with it. When you mentioned that, that was the first thing that clicked for me, and it was like you're walking a path. This is how I visualize it. You're walking a path, and you get halfway through, and you endured a lot on this journey. You encountered a lot of things that you weren't ready for, and you went with it. But halfway through, you decide, I don't want to do this anymore, and you give up and you turn around. It's like you made it this far. Now you have to turn back and endure all what you've already accomplished, and you're back to square one when you could have just kept going because of that illusion of fear.
Yeah, that's powerful, man.
Very powerful.
There's I heard there was an article once, and they did research on professional athletes, and before they would go for a race, they would ask them, do you experience fear, right? They don't. They experience excitement, right? And preparation is what takes away that feeling of excitement, so to speak, or at least the fear of the excitement. But I think it's interesting when you look at top athletes, it's rare that you hear them say they fear stuff. They may feel a little anxious towards it, but the fear, I think, is less of a word. And so I always wonder, do we use that word too strongly, the word fear, and how we put it together with the word anxiety? Because it's unknown. Yeah. I wonder. I always wonder whether that's the right word, fear. You know?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And back to actually answering your question, when I think of transformation, and I think those change of belief, take action, achieve results, commit, I think those are all the academic breakdown of what transformation is. But when I think of transformation, I want to think of my personal story, what I've been through, and how I've transformed as a human being and as an individual. And I would like to separate transformation from growth, right? I think growth is inevitable. We all grow, right? You're growing with wealth, health, sometimes positively, sometimes in a negative way. But growth is something that happens without intent. It happens with life. Transformation needs to happen with some level of intent, whether it's intentional by you, and I don't want to get religious here, but intentional by fate or by life, right? Things happen to you in your life that forces a transformation process in you. I'll share a quick story with you is, my daughter's here in the studio, so I hope she closes her ears. But about a year ago, I mean, literally just maybe a little over a year ago, my life was very different. I was married. I had a 4-year-old at the time. I was in school, and I think Chris, you mentioned I'm currently getting my executive MBA from Kellogg at Northwestern. I'm done in December, so pray for me. Hopefully it works. And so I was going through a lot. I was transforming as an individual just through the curriculum, the amazing curriculum that's offered at Northwestern University. And then, bang, divorce. So right in the smack of my education, my transformation, my growth in work, I took a new role at work that was completely different from what I did before in the past. Like I said, I spent most of my
Director of diversity and
yes,
inclusion
yes.
now,
I came
right?
from I came from
Yeah.
the business,
Yeah.
right? I was leading the product development department at the company, and I took a new role as director of diversity and inclusion because I want to be aligned closer to my purpose, right? I was going through this transformation. I mean,
Yeah.
as a human being.
Right.
A lot of people's growth and the upward potential, and then smack in the middle of it, smack in the middle of all these great things happening, was probably the worst experience I've had in my life. Where it goes from seeing my daughter every single morning and every single night to being informed that because of your, I won't say because of your sex or your gender, but because of certain things, your gender, your pay, things that are typically things that you've accomplished over the years are reasons why the time with your most important person is limited. Right. You make X amount of money, so therefore here's this. You are a male gender, therefore by default, you would have to prove the other gender is unfit to be a better parent to get more time. I mean, it was really a situation where I was like, what is going on and why is this happening to me? But it forced me to, Chris, if you can read through it again, it forced me to change my belief. It forced me to take action. It forced me to achieve results, right? I woke up in the morning, my daughter said, I wish I could tell you the story. I never had to cook for her growing up, right? Because, her mom was there, my wife at the time. And I made mac and cheese one day out the box. It was bad. My daughter ate the entire thing and told me at the end, Dad, I think you need to learn how to make this better. A little bit more salt. And it was a moment where it was cute and funny, but I was engulfed with emotion that I just like, oh my, like, you're right, honey. I gotta do better. I don't know, right? And I spent the next few days talking to my mom on the phone, teaching her how to cook. But the idea here is that back to transformation, I think that as much as important that, these things are very important, but I think it's a matter of intentionality, right? One, you force a change in your life because you've seen something or you've reached a point in your life where you can no longer take something and you have to self-identify that. Or life can sometimes put you through certain experiences that force that change upon you.
Yeah,
That's very fair.
and that's all spot on, and I think you have to hit on all the academic pieces to encompass the full transformation. I don't
Correct.
think there's one that you can select and say, oh, that one. You're right. It has to be all of them.
And I don't think it's a playbook where you go and say, okay, I want to transform my life because I want to stop smoking, so I need to change my belief. Change belief.
Yeah.
Number 2, take action. All right, I'm going to get a nicotine patch. Number 3, achieve results. Okay, it's been a week now, right? I don't think it's that prescriptive, right? But to your point, Chris, I think it's something that at some point throughout that transformation process, these things would at some point have been touched upon.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: if you could dig at a time when your mindset wasn't getting you a certain place, and like you were just being hard-headed, and finally, after someone coming and telling you, or something coming up, some situation happening, it got you to change your mindset. Is there one that comes to mind?
That's a good one.
I know the reason I ask is I know a lot of people struggle trying to change a mindset.
Yeah.
And like, what are things you can do to change your mindset?
Yeah, I let me tell you a story where that happened to me. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm able to tell you exactly how I changed my mindset. I just knew my mindset's changed in that experience. And I mentioned earlier, jokingly, that I, came to the USA when I was 14 years old with a very thick accent. So I went through high school for all 4 years being teased severely. And it took a toll on me as much as I worked through it. And it got better as I got into my senior years. But, those teasing amongst others gave me this sense of inferiority complex. I had this complex of just being inferior, less than, status quo, whatever that is. And in college, I remember playing football in college. I was a walk-on football player, and I wasn't very good, and I didn't get very better. Even though I was strong and I was fast and had all the physical attributes. I remember one summer in my sophomore year, my coach was kind of going through, and we were really bad that year we played football. I think we were 1-10. He was like, you know what, I'm going to play out this team and get a new team. So he was like firing every player. In my meeting with him one-on-one, he looked at me and said, "Yeah, listen, you know," and I thought I was gone. I knew I was a goner. And he said, "Yeah, listen, you know what though? I was gonna fire you on this football team, but the only reason why I'm keeping you here is because I like you, and you have a positive energy. You're a great guy, and people like you. But once that stops, you're gone." Right? So it was like, for the first time I've heard that there is a talent that I have, or skill that I have, that had nothing to do with the game that I'm playing. So there are other attributes. They are not the highlighted attributes. For example, so I've taken that with me everywhere that I've gone, where I could be at a radio show. And if the skill here is being a great communicator or a great orator or a person who knows X, Y, and Z, right, I am not limited in my thought to think that that's the only way to be successful. I know that there are other skills in me that could help me achieve or stay around enough where I can build those other skills, right? So in that moment, Chris, I kid you not, something hit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, I'm going to keep being a great person and hopefully have a great personality.
Yeah.
But I want to actually get better in football. So it bought me more time to be better. And I did get better, very much better. And I can tell the story later on. But the idea here was that I held on to that. So at work now, it's bigger than just being a great IT person. It's bigger than just being a great diversity inclusion leader. It's more about building authentic relationships. When I walk away from this interview, do you think about me when I leave here? Like, do you say, man, Yemi, there's something about that vibe that was just awesome. Right. Do you just, right? You know, I'm not sure if it's Toni Morrison, but someone said that it's not what you say to people that lasts the longest, it's how you make people feel. And that is key. And so I'm not sure if that answers your question, but for me, that was a turning point for me to realize that there is power in that.
Yeah, no, it helps a lot. It demonstrates how the power of someone's words can have such a profound impact.
Absolutely.
Even when they're trying to go this way, just how much it can expand by just being positive.
Shout out to Coach Jerry Kill of SIU Carbondale.
Yes.
Yeah.
How, with that story and kind of feeding off of that a little bit, had you had a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, and Dom, feel free to dive in on this.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to get my whole story together.
Yeah. How do you think that would have hurt you, the fixed mindset?
Yeah. No, that's big, and I'm glad you brought that back because that was the point I wanted to make earlier. Was that inferiority complex is something that I've seen in a lot of people like me, people who come from humble beginnings, where we grew up watching our parents struggle the same struggle or fight the same fight unsuccessfully that our grandparents had done, our great-grandparents have done. And I think that's something that's passed down generations in a way that we have no idea. We don't even see it, but we live it, so to speak. So that fixed mindset is detrimental to progress. So it's something that we want to make sure that we continue to find, and that experience allowed me to hopefully see a different side of, okay, if I stay on path of I'm not a good football player, I would have stayed not being a good football player, not because I don't think I can get better, but because I would look only on the skill set and say I'm not very good right now, so I'm never very good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wanted to share a quick story on culture, and I think this is something that I hope resonates with our audience as well as you all. And the idea here is that there are many times in our life that we are in certain communities with others where you hear the thinking of, this is the YEMI way, this is the OCC way, this is fill in the blank way, whether it's your company or your home, all right? This is the way we do things. And we have to break out of that. That once again, that's a fixed mindset that sometimes comes out not just in individuals but in culture.
Right.
And I'll share a quick anecdote with you guys around this whole theory of the 5 wet monkey theory.
5 wet monkeys.
5 wet monkeys.
Okay.
And here's how it works. And I try to keep this short. So, and you can Google this. This is just as a legitimate theory. So there were a group of scientists in a lab, in the cage. In the cage, they had 5 monkeys in the cage. They tied a string on a banana and dropped it on the top of the cage. Obviously, the monkeys jumped up to grab the banana and they eat it. And at the point in time, the scientists grabbed water hoses and hose down the monkeys in the cage until the banana goes out and the monkeys stop trying. They repeat this process of dropping the banana down the string, bringing out the water hose until those 5 monkeys no longer reached out to that banana anymore. And then once they did that, they put away the water hose. And that was the last time they put out that water hose. And what they did then is they took out one of the monkeys, the veteran monkeys, and brought in a brand new monkey, right? So there are 4 old monkeys, 1 new monkey, dropped down the string again with a banana. At this point in time, the new monkey runs and grabs the banana. And the 4 older monkeys do what? They jump on that new monkey and beat that puppy up. Like, let go of this thing because this water's going to kill us. Yeah. So they did, by action. And over time, the new monkey no longer went for that banana. So then I took out another monkey that's been there in the past and put another new monkey in until they repeated this process where every monkey that was originally in the cage that saw the water hose was no longer in that cage. However, no monkey reached for the banana.
Wow.
All right? Do you see that, right? So it goes back to the whole theory of, this is the X, Y, and Z way, fill in the blank, right? And there are times, like I said, culture, right? Culture kind of trains us a certain kind of way. So once again, when you think about a fixed mindset, sometimes you might not be aware of how you attained it, gained it, but it's within you and it's very active.
That's deep, man. That's deep. I don't know if I ever thought of how something continues to be in an environment even when the catalyst isn't there anymore. Like it continues to be the culture even when. That's interesting to think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a perfect example for what you were saying, that it gets so ingrained over time that you just don't even notice it. Until you try something different, and then that different was I don't know how to put it, but the different was how things should have been from the start.
Yeah, I tell you, and like you said, Chris, earlier, sometimes it comes from the most unexpected, uncertain place. It could be an experience that wakes you up.
A good one or a traumatic.
A good one or a traumatic one.
Right.
Very, very true.
Right.
But I guess the message I'm trying to send to our audience and everyone else, and I think we already know this, is that a lot of times we're unconscious of our fixed mindset. I cannot sit here and say, oh, Chris, Don, my fixed mindsets are A, B, and C, and here are the strategies on how I'm, like, I don't even know them.
Yeah.
Right. I don't.
It's tough.
Right? It's very tough, but there are tools to help us begin to try to identify that by reflection, meditation, having mentors, and having diverse mentors. Right? I have a lot of colleagues and friends who, if you ask them who their mentors are, they look just like them.
Yeah.
They sound just like them.
Yeah.
They had similar backgrounds. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, it's great to have that. Don't get me wrong now, but diversify them. If you're a male, get a female mentor. If you're older, get a younger mentor. If you're younger, get an older mentor, and vice versa. And I think it gives you the ability to kind of see things, especially when you respect these individuals, to see things from ways that can really help that. Like I said, once again, fixed mindset.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And if you are Black, get a white mentor.
Absolutely.
Right? If you've only come from that and that's all you've ever, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Get a Black mentor or a mentee and get someone where you can understand a different culture, different people, a different race.
Yeah.
Because we're all different. And I think the more we can understand that first, the more we can collaborate more effectively.
You just define cultural competence
Yeah.
right there.
For sure. So Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, things you look at change.
Absolutely.
That's something I'm really trying to work on, in that sense of being then doing. You can't go and be something if you can't be it here first. So making a decision and committing to it. How do you stay kind of hyper focused on some of your goals?
Chris, I'll be honest with you, I struggle with that till today. And I struggle with it because I'm one of those friends that I'm never short of ideas and visions. I'm a dreamer. You know, and being a dreamer is great because if you have friends or you have people around you that are executioners, you would flourish. Right? If you have a team of people who if they hear something that's great, they
Deliver.
They just
deliver.
go on it.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
I don't need to hear the rest. Just, you say A, I'm on A.
Yeah.
Right? And being a person that is a dreamer and a never short of ideas, I struggle with that. I struggle with starting many things that I don't finish because an idea came up that became sweeter or bigger or more impactful. So what I do now to keep myself grounded and more committed to things that I do start is I slow down. Right? I slow down. So as much as I dream, have ideas, and I pump them out, I'm like, Amy, calm down. Don't be impulsive. Give it time. Give it time. You have 1,000 other ideas you have in your head. Like, give it time. If tomorrow morning you wake up and you feel this strongly about it, then wait one more night and see if you can feel the same way the next night. Is it equal? Is it stronger?
Yeah.
Is it getting? And I try to play these games with my mind to allow me to really settle until you get that sweet, right? And so it's a struggle. So I don't have the answer, and I don't want to go out there and give bad. Right?
That was a
I'm not
great
the one.
answer.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned that. You know, I've recently gone through some transformational changes, and one of my everyday mantras is slow down and go with the flow. And in my kind of visionary mindset as well, I'm always trying to strive for the best, but sometimes it's better to just do than to do nothing. You know, and I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm really trying to value that, what that doing is, but also here's where I want to get. I'm going to get there, but let me make sure that I set goals in place and like slow down and do them the right way and not the fast way. So I appreciate your answer. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Awesome.
So thank you. When it comes to actually, I don't know, starting something, how do you just take it? Like, it seems easy. Yeah, you just take action. You just do it, right? How do you do that though? Like with something that you want to do, and what does that really mean to take action?
So for me, it's very subjective. So for me, I found out that the way I learn the best is pressure. So if I ever want to try something new, I just jump into it. I might have to force myself. You know, it's not something that you snap your fingers and you just, oh wow, I'm doing it. You gotta give yourself that kick, even if you're not really that motivated. Once you start it, even though you had that thought and you lack that motivation, though, that push to start it is what does it. And then once you're in there, for me, in the pot, I'm in there. I'm cooking. I'm either gonna burn or I'm gonna get out.
That's it. And like you've gone through this with me, and Kayla, you have too, and Yemi, you've heard a little bit about us taking action, right?
Yeah.
Your passion first started as just Principles of Passion, just a podcast, and I say just, but doing our duty to get people's voices out that are overcoming adversity. And so in taking that action, we saw other areas to take more action.
Exactly.
And so we started doing it. It's not easy, man. it takes patience and it takes an undying will to just do it. And if you have in your head where you want to be, then you don't let anything hold you back.
And that, like you were saying as well, you can't have that fixated mind. You have to have an open mind because it's not going to work every time on the first try. It's going to be trial and error. And if you decide to give up after that third time, just like you were saying, if you go to bed and you can't sleep on it for that third night feeling the same way or more excited, then, I mean, if you give up that easy on the third try, that third fail, then how bad did you really want it, you know? You have to be open-minded to that trial and error because it might even show you a new path that you never seen coming.
Absolutely. I think that's a very great point. I wanted to read three business tips, and I'll tie this back to our conversation about action here. So these tips are from Jack Ma, and Jack Ma is the founder of Alibaba, right? And so number one says, opportunity lies in the place where complaints are. So when you think about, and this is more about innovation and ideas, okay? Number two says, if you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure, right? And I disagree with that point, and I'll tell you why. And let me read that again. It says, if you don't give up, you still have a chance. I agree with that point. Here's where I disagree with. Giving up is the greatest failure. I think not trying is the greatest failure. Giving up is the second greatest failure, all right? The third one says, put the customers first, employees second, and shareholders third. Do with that. Fourth says, if you've never tried, how will you ever know if there is any chance? And that's a question. Number five says, look at challenges as opportunities. Number six says, forget about your competitors. Just focus on your customers. Number seven says, go big or go home. Otherwise, you're just wasting your youth. Okay? And I love this tip. I actually posted this on my social media. But about action, you know, I tell you that, and this goes to your point, Don. And I had a conversation with my buddy just less than a couple hours ago, and he was talking about he has over 15 to 18 years in IT. He's really specialized in like software development and software testing. And he was saying, hey, man, I'm thinking about doing like webinars and I'm thinking about doing like seminars and workshops just to, you know, pay it forward. And I don't care about the money. I just feel like I have a lot in my head to give others that could help them get started. And I'm like, dude, great idea. And as we were talking more, I'm like, hey, listen, here's how you want to start that kind of goal. Think about having webinars for 2 straight years and be prepared when you have no one in that webinar. Would you still go forward with it? Just consider that. If let's say day one you have 15 people, they're all your family members. Next month, 6 people. The next month, 2.
What's your why?
The next 5, 0.
Yep.
How do you react to that? If you can still hit that and still make those, like I said, speak with no audience in there for the next 2 years, then truly do it. Start now.
And that's your passion.
And that's your passion.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, when you think about action, I think about sustainability. Is it sustainable? Action is not just about doing. We can do anything.
Right.
I can tell you right now, I want to go become an NBA player. My first step is go to the gym and play basketball. Practice tonight and work on my jump shot so I can make the NBA at 37 years old. It's not unrealistic.
No.
Maybe a little bit, but, you know, it's not that much, you know. I'm 5'9", you know, that's pushing it. But sure, you know, it's not that, right? But it's not just about that. It's about how can I see myself in the long run, not just starting to play basketball and practicing, but truly sustaining that over the next 2 to 3, 4, 5 years where I could say in the 4-year standpoint, I will be prepared to play in front of whoever, agent, coaches, to get myself a shot to really play, right? And I think, you know, action is not just about activity, right? I know it's a verb. I know it's all about activity, but if you can set your action to goals, right? I'll leave you guys with one more thing. There's this very popular saying that goes, you know, set your goals above the skies. So if you fall short, you fall in the clouds, right? You guys have heard that.
Yeah.
And I've had kind of remixed that a bit, and I say, set your goals so small that you achieve them, and we set a new one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's focus on building brick by brick, right? And for me, it worked for me because that's the kind of person that I am. So I feel like we all need to really know who we are, like truly, who's Chris. Only Chris can really know that. And if you can search within you for who you truly are and what inspires and motivates you, what can get you to commit to action, you know that better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And for me, it was setting really small goals that allow me to feel the sense of accomplishment. And when I feel accomplished, I put more effort.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's just the way that I respond.
So I actually had a quote here that speaks right to that. When you begin to focus on how to transform yourself, it requires looking at smaller achievements. This is the beginning of transformation. Absolutely. It is the beginning of a new cycle that allows you to move into greater accomplishments. So like, I remember I started doing P90 like a year ago. And like, just doing that physical thing for 90 days was pivotal to how I looked at other little things. And then when I started doing intermittent fasting, just getting through those days and those hunger pangs, like, oh, don't leave the coffee cup out. Like making me think about little tiny things like that because I was doing something so small, but that had such a profound impact on my body and the way it physically reacted to things. So I think just looking at those little tiny things, and then how do you do a ton of little tiny things all day long? You know?
You know that.
Yeah,
You know that.
for sure. Why do you think most people don't achieve results?
You know, I think it goes back, and Don, please jump in.
Yeah, of course. I was just thinking about it.
Thinking about it, yeah. And let me speak for YEMI, right? For me, it was lack of results, lack of immediate feedback, immediate results.
So I like that you said that word, immediate.
Yes.
How does discipline play into that?
You know, I think it depends on the individual.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I have some friends, I tell you, are some of the most disciplined and committed people in the world, where they could tell you, hey, listen, I am going to stay home for the next 6 days and read 8 books. And they accomplish that like that. I can't do that. Like, I need points. I need candy. I need you to give me some rah-rah, good job, high fives. I need you to cheer me up, like, I mean, you're doing a good job, buddy, way to go, keep it up, right? And that's YEMI, and I know I need that. So when I set such goals, I need to make sure I have some incentives that I've set,
right,
that I know inspire me to continue. So when I set these goals, I need those little quick checkpoints, like, how am I doing?
Right.
How am I
What's
doing?
my reward?
What's my reward?
Right.
What is giving me that, keep going, okay, making progress. I'm one of those guys where when I go to the gym to work out, when I do some bench curls, like just one set of 10,
Yeah.
I'm in the mirror like,
Just checking it out. Did I get bigger?
Did it get bigger? Like, I am that immediate. And once again, I can look at my past and to identify why I had such a need for immediate rewards, right? But that's a YEMI thing. So I think that there isn't a one staple statue of liberty that we all could see, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist when it comes to things like this. I think we all need to hone in on who we are and what gets us going and be able to use that to set these types of goals. Because if not, if you're reading a book, right, to tell you what to do, and that book doesn't naturally align with who you are from your core values, then I think that you find yourself spinning on your wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like he said, for me, for the Dom way, I would just say, it's just the obscurity or like losing the vision. Like, you know, everyone's, well, for me, I always start with a vision and I look for the best way to get to those results. Not immediately, just progressively. But if I start to see them like fall short, I look for ways to, I guess, stimulate them or bring them back up. And if I don't see that, I keep looking for more ways. And there's always these like things that get in the way of what the original vision was. So the original vision becomes obscured because of all these paths to try and fix it, that I kind of lost sight of what the original goal was in the beginning.
How do you?
Oh, and reassurance. That's how.
Okay.
Reassurance is like, kind of like reflecting. Just remember why.
Rewind a little on the vision
Mm.
and kind of the losing sight. Is that a good thing or a bad thing that you lose sight of the original vision? Or
It's a good and bad thing, because, like I was saying, it could go a bunch of different ways. The good can, I mean, you could have something good come out of the vision by taking a different route, or let me rephrase that. From the vision, when you branch out, you might encounter something that wasn't necessarily good,
Right.
but it taught you a life lesson that you needed to learn for that growth or
Yes.
transformation.
Yep.
So I would say, and then the reassurance is just remembering why. So sometimes those little side roads that you take and the reassurance put together, it kind of shows you like this is another way you can take, because now you have that experience and that knowledge to branch out from your original goal, from the reassurance and that path.
Yeah.
So that's how I.
And I like what you said about the why, and I don't want to get into that too much today because that's our episode next week. We're going to talk about
That one's gonna be a hoot.
gratitude and the why, because I think that's the deeper
the juice.
part.
That's the juice.
Yeah. But you have to understand how it all plays in.
Exactly.
You know, there's a lot of facets there. What advice would you guys give to someone who's struggling with consistency? You know, and whether it be work in anything, you know, and I know we talked about, you know, setting those little tiny wins and little accomplishments and little tasks. Is there any other advice you guys can think of to give to some youth out there that are maybe struggling here?
I mean, for me, I would say humans are very routine based by nature. And if someone is inconsistent, they're going to stay inconsistent. They need to reassure themselves, and they need to be able to identify that loop and make that transition on their own. So for me, I would say it's kind of internal as opposed to something you could really say. It's just breaking the loop.
For me, I'll tell you this. I think it's about value, right? I think the things that we value the most, not only are we consistent, we find ways to be consistent, and we make it consistent. Give you a good example. My daughter,
Yeah.
right? Listen, and if I'm late to pick my daughter from from childcare, all right, I think it costs about something ridiculous like $1,000, $1 billion an hour, something like that crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more concerned about the look on her face when she's the only child that's left there, and I walk in late. Like, what is so important? Like, what was? And sometimes it's not just, I've been late before. You know, it could be miscommunication with my mom. At one point, it was, my train was late. You know, your train was delayed, so I jumped off the train and took an Uber. There was traffic, and right? But it's never happened again. Right? But it's not because things haven't happened.
Right.
It's just that I better prepared for that. Rather than leaving half an hour before, I leave an hour before now because I
Made it
want to
a
make sure that
priority.
I made it a priority.
Yeah.
So I think that naturally, when we value certain things, and I think it's all about determining that value for you. And Chris, you said that earlier. We're not going to talk much about the whys, but that why are you doing this thing that needs consistency?
Right.
If you understand what that why is, and that why is of value, and you prioritize that why, my friend,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen,
Well,
you will unleash your consistency.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's just what happened. And so that's one thing. And I think the other part, and because that doesn't apply to everything. So now, for me, is the things that I'm not as consistent as, and I want to be more consistent in. And I think that's more of your question. I think it goes back to that priority. I like to prioritize what these things are and make sure that I put myself in a predicament where I am really saying this is of value, this is not of much value, right? And if I can do that, and I realize for some reason I'm not being consistent with something, then it's telling YEMI that's not of value.
Right.
And if it is, then I need to reprioritize it to take it to a point where I do that. So that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah. And you know, transformation is not just this
No,
magic,
Not at all.
right? It's a life long journey to want to be consistent and more consistent at everything you do.
Yeah.
Like, how do you continue to progress and transform into something better, right? If it's something worse, then, I don't know if we call that transforming. It's digressing, maybe. But I think
Devolving.
when you really transform, you have to dig deep, and it takes time. So again, the motivational coach that we use to kind of base this off, Stefan James, he says our inner critic feeds on negative self-concepts, which further inhibits our ability to challenge that self-concept and take action to transform our lives. I'll say it one more time, and this is in thinking of how we change our identities a little bit. It says our inner critic feeds on negative self-concepts, which further inhibits our ability to challenge that self-concept and take action to transform our lives. What do you guys think of with that quote? What comes to mind?
Could you read it one more time?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of anecdotes in there. Yeah.
Our inner and the part to me, our inner critic feeds on negative self-concepts. How does that hurt us?
So like for me, it kind of goes right along with what I was saying or what I was writing about these last 2 days. It's just you have to overcome that inner self, and you have to understand that it's going to talk. What it's going to tell you is things you don't want to hear, but you don't want to hear. But it's things that you are able to overcome. You have to be able to accept those things to evolve. If you hear those things and you
Brush them to the side.
disregard them,
Yeah.
they're not going to go anywhere. They're still going to be there. You're still going to run into those same conflicts because they're not, you're not doing anything with them. And if you could work on them, you stop feeding that negative energy. And eventually that negativity, it never goes away, but you can diminish it so small that you're a better person and the negativity doesn't even phase you.
And it can go away. I think it can truly go away. I think the challenge is you can't give up.
Yeah.
When you're transforming, you just keep going until it goes all the way away. I think people struggle with that, but
I'm struggling with this one.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with this specific quote because I'm not sure I'm buying it. And what I mean by that, I feel like it's setting us up, right? I think you're throwing a lot of fancy words at me and making me think really hard about it. And as I break it down, I'm like, yeah, like, this negative self-critic that I have in my head has hurt me in many ways, but has helped me in more ways than I think has hurt me. So I kind of like that inside voice in my head. I kind of like how it inspires and motivates me. I kind of like the end result of my decisions when I question myself, and I'm my toughest critic, and I'm sometimes a pessimist. When you have that good and bad devil on your shoulders, right? When I think of this quote, I think of that, and I think it's.
you think of
more
the good
that-
one or the bad one,
the
or
bad
both?
one. I think
The
about the bad
one.
one
Okay.
when this is
Okay.
here, and I imagine my life without that bad one, and just a good one, and the decisions I would have made, and where I would be today if that bad one wasn't there. And I don't think I want that. I think I appreciate my bad guy. Now, would I want that bad guy alone? No, absolutely not either.
Right.
But I definitely do want to balance with both. But I think there is a necessity of that self-critic, that person in you, because no one knows you better than you. I'll tell you a quick story. So I have this, when I was married, my ex-wife now, and I used to go to marriage counseling. And I kind of kept that counselor throughout the divorce process, which was very difficult. And I still speak with her to today. And, therapy has been the best gift that I've gotten in my transformational process. Right. So I grew up in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. And for anyone who's Nigerian listens to this call, or African in general, would know that when you think of therapist, you think that you are mentally sick and you need help. You think that you are, going crazy, You think, you think the worst things. Like, it is this big for a pile. Like, you never. Like, when I tell my friends I'm going to therapy, they're like, for what? You cool? You on suicide watch, bro? Right? And it's a joke. We laugh about it now, but it's very serious because that is truly the perception of a lot of young Black Africans. And I want to speak now because I was raised there, so I really know that. And that's the biggest mistake. I think that, what therapy has done for me is help me reduce the noise of everything around me and increase the noise of me within me.
That's powerful.
Right?
That's powerful.
And I want to hear me.
Yeah.
I really do. Both the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to know what I look like in the mirror. A lot of times you look in the mirror and you see an image that we think we recognize because we see it every day, but we really don't know. Like, I want to know who I am, and I'm in the process of learning that. And for me, I think that's what that's speaking to, and I embrace that. And this is, once again, just me personal.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That is, how do I be like you? I mean, that's how I want to be like Yemi, man.
Okay, well, get a divorce first of all. Lose them. Just kidding.
Yeah. No, I mean, that mindset though is so strong, and I wish more people had that, because that resiliency is powerful, and it's not easy though.
Not at all.
And I think that's the one thing people need to hear is that it takes time to be good. It takes a lifetime to be great.
Absolutely.
And to really commit to mastery of something. Yeah. It takes being around good people, making right decisions, letting your bad side motivate your good to propel you to something great. It takes the full picture.
Yeah, and I think the point I really want to mention is that it's an ongoing process. I mean, I think that, I embrace my flaws a lot more today than ever. I'm a guy that's I don't know what that is. Yeah. I never was like that. I never will tell you that I didn't know something. I'd rather just be quiet about it and confess what I needed to, but never upfront about it. Like, I'm the person, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, in meetings today, I'm like, I have no idea. Help me. And then it's funny because now at work, people come like, thanks for asking. I'm like, I have no idea what. I didn't know. And everyone's like,
people
in my mind, I'm like, why
appreciate
didn't you speak up?
Yeah.
Right? But that was me. And I think my transformation process was kind of going through some really tough times where you start to spend a lot of time with yourself in your head. Mm-hmm. And then you start to not like what you hear. Yeah. And you start to say, wait a second. Like, as an adult, physically, I'm a 37-year-old man. And I think this is for a lot of people, that physically we are our age, our bones, our skin, our hair, everything. But internally, we're some young kids. So we need to be very intentional about the growth of our inner child. Yeah. And if we don't feed that inner child, we'll find ourselves in a 45-year-old body and a 16-year-old boy or a 16-year-old girl, right? So I'm at the point where I have identified that I have a very young me in me that's naive, that's sometimes scared, and the only way I could really touch him is to reflect, is to meditate, is to sometimes talk to my therapist, is to sometimes fail and face it. And face, one of the biggest lessons I learned through my rough times is my mom told me. My mom is Superwoman. And she's like, face it. Face it. Yeah. Like, if you're caught in the jungle and you have nowhere to run or hide, and it's you and a lion that's about to eat you, do you run? Or do you fight this lion face to face? And trust me, 99% of the time I would run. Yeah. You never know, I could probably get away. Who knows? There's no trees, there's nothing. I probably would get caught, but I'm going to try my best to run. But my mom said, no, fight it. Face it. Like, face that lion. If you feel like you're going to die anyway, you're going to die anyway. Well, just give your best shot. You give it, face that. Look at that lion. Roar back at it. Yeah. Do whatever you can. And that's, and it's probably a bad analogy because a lion, really, you might want to run. But the idea here is that face these challenges, and sometimes you would shock yourself at how brave you are. Yeah. And that bravery feeds that inner child and feeds that inner person. Yeah.
that's how we transform.
That's right.
That's
That's
how
how
you
you
transform.
transform.
So
Yeah.
just again humbled to have you on the show, man. I know you're over at the OCC. Are there any positions that you guys are looking to fill right now that you may need to? Any right now that you need? I'm just trying to
Yeah,
give you a
no-
platform right now to throw it out there.
Yeah,
Anything?
yeah, no, lots of it. So
Yeah?
please go to our website.
Anything that you need specifically that you want to get out there about what you're doing at the OCC?
Yeah,
IC
yeah,
Stars.
absolutely. So with IC Stars, first of all, first and foremost, is I mentioned earlier, we're a workforce technology training program that focuses on underserved youth in the Chicagoland area. We look to recruit them, we look to train them, and we look to employ them. Right. So, if you know of anyone who was I'm not even sure what the age range is, probably 18 to like 35 maybe.
Yep.
Go to icstars.org, have them apply. I mean, it's a phenomenal program. If you want to be a part of that, if you have, you want to be a mentor, IC Stars has a thing called High Tea, and that's how I heard about IC Stars. High Tea is a time every single day where a senior leader of some sort in any industry comes to IC Stars and sits with our cohorts. So we have a cohort of roughly 25 plus young adults. You sit down with them at 4 p.m. for about an hour where they get to introduce themselves and you get to speak about your experience. It is probably the most transformational moment that I had in a while where it just kind of broke me. I just felt like, my God, the hunger, the thirst, the energy of these young adults, it kind of recharged that in me because I got lazy, to be honest with you guys. You have a house, you have a home, get paid every single month the same amount of money. You can do, you kind of like, oh, I'm okay with life. And then you get out there and you meet this young, vibrant kids who come from great stories and have this world ahead of them. You want to just help them. So that's one. From an OCC perspective, like I mentioned, I'm the Director of Diversity and Inclusion. My new role now is focused on building an initiative. So my goal is to make our work. So OCC is in the financial services arena. Okay, we're a clearinghouse. So as you can imagine, we're not very diverse, as in any financial services company. I mean, we're more so than many, to be honest with you. So the idea is to find ways to begin to focus on inclusion just as much as diversity. And I think inclusion is more about respect, feeling valued, feeling heard. So whether you're white, black, woman, and male, doesn't matter. We really want to get you to bring your whole self to work every single day. I think that's the goal, right? So once again, happy to be in this role. I'm learning. It's been almost a year now. I'm still quite new, so help me.
You're transforming.
I'm transforming.
One of our very eyes.
Help. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know anything about D&I, give me a ring, reach out to me. Chris, it's a pleasure to be here.
I definitely can connect you with some people in that space. So we'll talk offline about that. Thank y'all for tuning in. Again, check out the website, yourpassionfirst.com. It will go live this Friday. If I can help, please reach out to me on Facebook. If we can help, let us know. We will be scheduling our first workshop. I'm hoping October and November, and we're still slated for the festival June 2020. So stay tuned for all that. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, YEMI. Dom, as always. Kayla, you rock. Little one.
And shout out to Annabella. My daughter is in the studio, and she has been phenomenal. Bella, love you. Thank you for being good.
Patient.
I know you came here earlier to speak with me, but I was talking. I couldn't talk to you. I think Kayla took care of you. But thank you, honey, for being patient.
Yeah. And, just keep in mind, it's hard to follow your dreams
If you don't put your passion first.
That's right.
Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah.